Huawei has finally brought its Mate series to India with the Mate 20 Pro. This phone features Huawei's custom silicon, which also happens to be the world's first 7nm mobile processor. It has a custom software experience and it has that great triple camera setup thanks to the ongoing partnership with Leica. Let's see if it makes sense spending nearly 70,000 rupees on this phone. The Mate 20 Pro feels incredible the moment you pick it up. The exposed metal frame along the sides offer very good rigidity, and the glass front and back tapers along the sides, blending seamlessly with the metal so you barely feel any of the edges. The display is massive, measuring 6.39 inches diagonally, and is paired with an equally high resolution of Quad HD+. It's an OLED panel and you get little conveniences such as an always-on display. The display stays crisp and bright even when viewed outdoors under sunlight, and touch response is excellent. The oleophobic coating on the display doesn't attract many fingerprints and smudges, so it's easy to keep clean. The notch on the top isn't too deep, but it's wide to accommodate the extra sensors. All of this combined makes the Mate 20 Pro look absolutely stunning. Add to this the various display customizations for color mode and color temperature, and you have yourself one of the best smartphone displays in the market. The Mate 20 Pro also features an in-display fingerprint sensor, which is placed closer to the middle of the display rather than towards the bottom. It works fairly well, although we did face a few instances where it had a bit of trouble recognizing our fingerprint. Like all in-display sensors, it takes a second before it can actually read your fingerprint. We love the contrasting red color given to the power button, which adds to the phone's style quotient. The phone also supports dual 4G with VoLTE, which is nice. There is also support for Huawei's custom NM card for storage expansion, which can be used in the second SIM slot. The phone doesn't have a headphone socket, but it's also missing a speaker grill, and that's because Huawei is using the USB Type-C port as an outlet for sound. Now, the one drawback of this solution is that the sound gets muffled a bit when you're charging the phone and playing audio, but this wasn't a major inconvenience for us. The Mate 20 Pro also uses the earpiece for audio playback, thereby giving you a stereo effect. Dolby Atmos is on by default and cannot be switched off when using the speaker. The Mate 20 Pro is powered by the world's first 7nm mobile SoC. The Kirin 980 is the successor to the Kirin 970, which promises better performance and efficiency across the board. It's also the first SoC to feature ARM Cortex-A76 cores, a new Mali G76 graphics chip, and dual neural processing units for more efficient AI work. In India, the Mate 20 Pro is available with 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. The phone is also IP68 certified for dust and water resistance. In addition to the new hardware, the Mate 20 Pro is also one of the first devices to get Huawei's new EMUI 9.0 skin, which is based on Android 9 Pie. Huawei has made a few additions to this, some of which are specific to the Indian market. The first one is tighter integration with local digital wallets like Paytm, which can be accessed directly from the lock screen if you use the assigned fingerprint to unlock the phone. Next, the calendar app now lets you enable localized calendars too, like Hindu Panchang or one for Islamic prayer timings. If you dig through the calendar settings, you'll also find an Indian national calendar which will show you regional holidays. High Vision does a decent job of identifying objects and even identifies calories in food items. In shopping mode, you can point it to objects and it'll try to find similar items from local online retailers. It can read QR codes too, and there's a translation option which lets you auto-translate text in real time. Now, local languages aren't supported as of now, so it's not particularly useful in India. The Mate 20 Pro has Android Pie's digital well-being feature too, which is renamed to Digital Balance in EMUI 9.0. Similar to Pi, it lets you monitor your app usage habits and gives you a report on a daily basis. Wind down is also present, which is now called bedtime here. Password Vault is another new addition which saves your login credentials for apps. Now, Huawei says that the login details are encrypted and saved on the device alone. Now, in day-to-day usage, the Mate 20 Pro works very well. At roughly 189 grams, it's on the heavier side and is something that's noticeable with one-handed use. The new efficient Kirin 980 SoC handles multitasking and heavy apps, especially games, with ease. We managed to get very smooth frame rates in PUBG Mobile with the graphics set to HDR and the ultra-high frame rate setting. Battery drain was around 9% for an entire 30-minute run, which is quite good. Other titles like Asphalt 9 Legends and Warhammer 40,000 Freeblade also run smoothly at their higher settings. Now, unlike the previous generation Kirin 970 SoC, which was notorious for heating up quickly, The 980 doesn't have this issue. Now the phone does get a bit warm after prolonged gaming sessions, but nothing that really feels uncomfortable. One feature that we haven't mentioned yet is the 3D face unlock, which is amazingly quick. It works well in pretty much any lighting condition, including pitch darkness. This is thanks to a combination of a dot projector, IR camera, and a flood illuminator. The 3-camera setup on the back is another big highlight of the Mate 20 Pro. Going anti-clockwise, we first have the 40-megapixel primary camera with an f1.8 aperture, followed by the 20-megapixel sensor with a wide-angle lens, and finally an 8-megapixel sensor with a telephoto lens. The default setting for the primary sensor does a pixel binning technique where it combines multiple pixels into one, thereby giving you an effective 10-megapixel image. This interpolation of pixels ensures a more manageable file size and better quality photos. You can shoot at the full 40-megapixel resolution if you need to. In daylight, the Mate 20 Pro has fast focus and is pretty consistent in getting the exposure right. It automatically detects objects and scenes and will switch modes or adjust the colors accordingly thanks to the Master AI. Skies look a bit bluer and grass is a bit greener, but we never really found it to look too artificial most of the time. Point either the front or the rear camera at a person and it'll automatically switch to portrait mode. In landscape shots, details and distant objects are handled well with pleasing colors and good dynamic range. If you zoom out, the app switches to the 20-megapixel wide-angle camera, which lets you capture more of the scene in one frame. A few things worth noting when shooting with this sensor though, is that it doesn't always get the white balance right, and pictures shot in low light lack the same level of brightness and detail as a primary sensor. It is, however, very useful in shooting super macros. With Master AI on, point the camera very close to any subject and it automatically switches to the wide-angle lens, which gives you a much shorter focusing distance. Hit the 1x button in the viewfinder and the app switches to an 8-megapixel telephoto sensor, provided there's ample light. At night, or when there's inadequate light, the camera will simply do a digital zoom using the main sensor, just like most other smartphones. At 3x zoom in daylight, the Mate 20 Pro produces sharp images with excellent details and colors. Compared to the 2x zoom on the iPhone XS and equivalent Super Res zoom on the Pixel 3 XL, the Mate 20 Pro clearly has the best image here. With 5x hybrid zoom, the Mate 20 Pro does a digital zoom using the telephoto sensor. Once again, the phone delivers the best level of detail with little noise and better white balance compared to the competition. In low light, the Mate 20 Pro continues to impress. Brightness level is excellent and there's plenty of visible detail even in distant objects, and exposures for multiple light sources are balanced nicely. We wouldn't recommend using portrait mode in low light as even though it gets the edge detection right, the resulting image is often too dark. The main camera has excellent depth of field thanks to the large aperture, so we mostly just ended up using that. Focusing speed is equally good too in low light thanks to the laser autofocus. When shooting landscape shots in low light, Master AI will automatically switch to night mode. Now, this is similar to night sight on the Pixel 3 in principle, but the mechanics are slightly different. With the Mate 20 Pro, the shutter is actually kept open for 3 to 4 seconds, which at times resulted in blurry shots because we shook a little. Google's night sight, on the other hand, takes a series of shots with faster shutter speeds to avoid blurring. Now, when compared, the Mate 20 Pro manages impressive detail and colors. Certain textures and edges appear a bit jagged when compared to night sight on the Pixel 3, but it's still not too bad. The front 24-megapixel selfie camera has an f2.0 aperture. Images have good detail and colors, and the HDR mode does a much better job at exposure when shooting against direct sunlight, something that the iPhone XS and the Pixel 3 XL fail to do. In portrait mode, you can choose between different bokeh patterns and add some interesting lighting effects too. You can even record some gimmicky looking animojis called 3D Qmoji. In low light, the selfie camera doesn't quite impress. Images have lesser noise compared to, let's say, an iPhone XS, but it does lack the sharpness and clarity of a Pixel 3 XL. The Huawei Mate 20 Pro can shoot videos up to 4K at 30 FPS with no time constraint. However, it doesn't do 4K 60 FPS, sadly. Image quality is good in daylight and stabilization is solid too, but there is noticeable wobble effect from the sides of the frame. At 1080p, this issue isn't noticeable and offers the best quality and stabilization. The wide-angle sensor isn't ideal for video as there's a jittery effect in the footage when you're walking about. Colors look a bit warm too for our liking. You can enable special effects like AI color, which only keeps human subjects in color while turning everything else monochrome. Keep in mind that when shooting in these special modes, the resolution tops out at 1080p. The Mate 20 Pro can also shoot slow motion video at 960 FPS, although in small bursts. The Huawei Mate 20 Pro delivers impressive battery performance, generally lasting more than a full day on a single charge. Even with heavy usage, which included plenty of gaming, running benchmarks, and a couple of hours of streaming music over Bluetooth, we still managed a battery life of roughly 21 hours. The 4200 mAh capacity is also quick to top up with the bundled charger. The Mate 20 Pro has something called Supercharge, which makes dash charging on the OnePlus look slow in comparison. We were able to charge the battery from 0 all the way till about 96% in just an hour, which is absolutely crazy. Now, one of the unique features of this phone is the ability to act as a wireless charger itself. After flipping a switch in the battery settings, you simply place any Qi compatible device and the Mate 20 Pro will begin charging it. The Mate 20 Pro is Huawei's best and strongest offering yet, which offers literally everything one could ever want from a flagship Android phone. That 69,990 rupee price tag doesn't seem too bad when you consider the kind of features and performance it offers compared to much more expensive phones like the Google Pixel 3 XL and even the iPhone XS. Between it and the Google Pixel 3, which is still about 71,000 rupees in the market, the Mate 20 Pro is the obvious choice in our books. Sure, the Pixel 3 is easier to handle, but the Mate 20 Pro offers double the storage and is simply a better package overall. Now, if we could change a few things, we would have kept the capacitive fingerprint sensor, as the in-display one isn't always very consistent. However, other than this, it's really hard to find fault with the Huawei Mate 20 Pro. It has excellent battery life, good software, solid app and gaming performance, and a very competent set of cameras. If you're one of the few who have still been holding out to upgrade to that flagship phone, then the Huawei Mate 20 Pro is the complete package. So thanks for watching our review, and for all things tech, log on to gadgets360.com.